The notification sound from Celia's phone cut through the silence of our apartment like a blade through paper. She was in the shower, and the device sat there on our kitchen counter, screen lighting up with message after message. I wasn't the type to snoop, never had been in 8 years of marriage, but something about the rapid-fire buzzing made me pause. The screen showed a group chat called The Queens. I recognized the participants: Maya, Celia's best friend since college, Trish from her office, and 2 other women I'd met at various dinner parties. What I read made my stomach drop. Maya. Day 12 of the Ignore Protocol. How's he holding up? Celia. Getting desperate. Asked me 3 times yesterday if I wanted to grab dinner. I just shrugged and said I was busy. Trish. Perfect. The 30-day plan is genius. Make him think he's losing you, then when he's completely broken down, you can remake him however you want. Maya. My cousin did this with her husband. Now he does all the housework and gives her his entire paycheck. Total puppy behavior. Celia. Eli's almost there. He's been doing the dishes without being asked. Next phase is making him beg for my attention. I scrolled up, finding weeks of messages. They had it all planned out, a systematic psychological campaign designed to break me down and rebuild me as some kind of obedient servant. The casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. These women were discussing my emotional manipulation like they were planning a book club. Then I found the messages about Brandon. Celia. Speaking of attention, Brandon texted again. Says he misses our coffee meetings. Maya. Girl, you're playing with fire. But I get it. Brandon's hot and successful. Way more exciting than Mr. It Guy. Trish. Just be careful. Men like Eli seem harmless until they're not. Celia. Please. Eli wouldn't hurt a fly. He's too busy with his computer games and security protocols. Besides, what's he going to do? Change my passwords? The shower was still running. I took screenshots of everything, methodically scrolling through months of conversations. The scope of their planning was impressive, in a twisted way. They had discussed everything from withholding affection to undermining my confidence at work. Celia had even shared details about our private conversations, mocking my concerns about our relationship. I heard the water stop. Moving quickly, I placed her phone exactly where I'd found it and walked to my home office. My mind was racing, but my hands were steady as I uploaded the screenshots to a secure cloud folder. Years of working in IT security had taught me the value of documentation. Celia emerged from the bathroom in her silk robe, hair wrapped in a towel. She looked beautiful, as always. For a moment, I felt a pang of something. Loss, maybe, or grief for what I'd thought we had. Morning, babe, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Day 12 of the Ignore Protocol, after all. Morning, I replied. Sleep well? She shrugged, already reaching for her phone. Fine, I guess. I watched her scroll through the messages I'd just read, saw the small smile that played at her lips. She was enjoying this. The systematic destruction of our marriage was entertainment to her. I'm making coffee, I said. Want some? Another shrug. Sure, whatever. As I measured grounds into the machine, I found myself thinking about chess. I'd played competitively in college, and the first rule of strategy was simple. Never let your opponent know you've seen their hand. Celia and her friends thought they were playing a game where only they knew the rules. They were about to learn otherwise. My phone buzzed, a text from my brother Sam. Still on for lunch today? I typed back, Actually, yes. I need to talk to you about something. The coffee maker gurgled to life, filling the kitchen with the rich scent of dark roast. Celia was still absorbed in her phone, probably coordinating the next phase of Operation Break Eli. I poured 2 cups and set hers on the counter next to her. Thanks, she said absently. You're welcome. I sipped my coffee and watched her. Really watched her. Maybe for the first time in months. The way she held herself, the calculated distance she maintained, the little smirk when she read her messages. It was all performance. I was married to a stranger. I have to work late tonight, she said, not looking up from her screen. Don't wait up. Brandon keeping you busy? I asked casually. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. What? Your phone, I said, nodding toward the device in her hands. You left it on the counter. The notifications were going off. I saw his name. For a split second, I saw panic flicker across her face. Then she recovered, slipping back into the role of the annoyed wife. Were you reading my messages? Just saw the name on the notification. Who's Brandon? She studied my face, looking for signs that I knew more than I was letting on. I kept my expression neutral, mildly curious. Years of dealing with corporate security breaches had taught me how to project calm while my mind raced. He's a client, she said finally. New account, big potential. Ah, I nodded, filing away the lie. Well, good luck with that. She relaxed slightly. It's just business, Eli. You know how these corporate types are. They want to meet outside the office, think it makes them more important. Of course. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup in the sink. I should get going. Conference call with the Seattle office at 9. Okay. She was already looking back at her phone. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I gathered my laptop bag and keys, pausing at the door. Celia? I realized something this morning. She glanced up. What's that? I smiled, the expression feeling strange on my face. I realized my place. Your place? Somewhere you're not. I walked out before she could respond, leaving her standing in our kitchen with her mouth slightly open and her phone forgotten in her hand. The elevator ride down to the parking garage gave me time to think. 30 days. They wanted to break me down over 30 days, turn me into some kind of trained pet. The timeline was perfect, actually. It gave me a month to plan, to prepare, to ensure that when their little game ended, I'd be the only one left standing. My car started on the first try, a small blessing that felt significant somehow. As I drove toward my office, I called Sam. Hey, brother, he answered on the second ring. What's up? Change of plans for lunch. Can you meet me at Murphy's instead? I need somewhere we can talk privately. Sounds serious. Everything okay? I thought about that question as I merged onto the highway. Was everything okay? My marriage was a lie, my wife was cheating on me, and her friends were treating my emotional well-being like a social experiment. But for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt completely clear about what I needed to do. Everything's fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. I just need some advice on a project I'm working on. What kind of project? I smiled again, and this time it felt natural. The kind that requires careful planning and attention to detail. You know me, I like to be thorough. Murphy's Pub occupied a corner spot in downtown, the kind of place where tech workers and construction crews rubbed shoulders over decent burgers and better beer. Sam was already waiting in a back booth when I arrived, nursing a Coke and scrolling through his phone. You look different, he said, as I slid into the seat across from him. Good different, like you've been sleeping better. Funny thing about clarity, I said, signaling the waitress. It's better than caffeine. Sam raised an eyebrow. He was 3 years younger than me, worked in tech support for a local software company, and had the kind of easygoing nature that made people want to confide in him, which was exactly what I needed. So what's this mysterious project? He asked, after I'd ordered a sandwich and coffee. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the screenshots, carefully cropped to hide the more damaging parts about Brandon. Hypothetically, if someone you cared about was being psychologically manipulated, what would you do about it? Sam squinted at the screen, reading Maya's message about the 30-day ignore protocol. His expression shifted from curiosity to anger. This is about Celia, isn't it? Hypothetically. Eli. He leaned forward. This is messed up, like, seriously messed up. They're talking about you like you're some kind of lab rat. I know. How long has this been going on? I showed him more screenshots, watching his face grow darker with each message. The casual cruelty of it, the way they laughed about my attempts to connect with my own wife. It was even worse seeing someone else react to it. This isn't just mean, Sam said finally. This is sociopathic. You need to confront her. I need to be smarter than that. Our food arrived, giving me time to organize my thoughts. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and tired feet, refilled my coffee without being asked. Here's what I'm thinking, I said once she'd moved on. They want to play games? Fine. But they're amateurs, and I'm a professional. Professional what? Problem solver. Information security specialist. Someone who thinks 3 moves ahead. I took a bite of my sandwich, surprised to find I was actually hungry. They have a plan. I need a better one. Sam was quiet for a long moment, processing. What do you need from me? Technical support, and maybe a witness when the time comes. I outlined my initial strategy. First, documentation. I already had that covered. Second, financial security. Our accounts were joint, but I'd set them up, which meant I had administrative access to everything. Third, information gathering. I needed to know exactly how deep this went, who else was involved, and what Celia's endgame really was. The Brandon thing is bothering me, I admitted. Coffee meetings with a client? Since when does an HR director take individual client meetings? You think she's cheating? I think she's lying. And in my experience, people who lie about small things are usually hiding bigger things. Sam nodded slowly. So what's the timeline? They want 30 days to break me down. I'll give them 30 days to hang themselves. I pulled up a calendar on my phone. Today is day 12. By day 30, I want to know everything. Who Brandon really is, how long this has been going on, what their ultimate plan is, and exactly how many people are involved. And then? I thought about Celia's smug little smile as she read those messages, the way she'd shrugged off my attempts at connection, the casual cruelty of treating our marriage like a social experiment. Then I show them what real planning looks like. We spent the rest of lunch working out details. Sam knew people in various tech companies around the city. It wouldn't be hard to find out who Brandon was and where he worked. I had access to our phone records, credit card statements, and email accounts. Between the two of us, we could map out Celia's entire secret life. One more thing, I said, as we prepared to leave. I need you to do something that might seem strange. Stranger than corporate espionage against your own wife? I need you to start documenting our conversations. Not recording, just notes. Times, dates, what we discussed. If this goes sideways, I want a paper trail showing that everything I did was measured and legal. Sam's expression grew serious. You really think it might go that far? I think people who are capable of psychological manipulation are capable of other things too. I want to be prepared. We parted ways in the parking lot, Sam heading back to his office, and me taking a longer route to mine. I needed time to think, to let the pieces settle in my mind like sediment in still water. My office building was a converted warehouse in the Arts District, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. The company I worked for, Cascade Security Solutions, specialized in protecting mid-sized businesses from cyber threats. It was the kind of work that required patience, attention to detail, and the ability to think like the enemy. Afternoon, Eli, called Janet from reception. How was lunch? Educational, I replied, heading for the elevator. My office was on the 3rd floor, a corner space with windows overlooking the city. I'd chosen it specifically for the view. Something about seeing the bigger picture helped me focus on the details. Today, the sight of the city spreading out below felt different, like I was seeing it from a higher altitude. I spent the afternoon working on a security audit for a local manufacturing company, but part of my mind was elsewhere, turning over the morning's revelations. The systematic nature of what Celia and her friends were doing suggested this wasn't their first time. The casual way they discussed it, the detailed planning, this felt practiced. Around 4 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Celia. "Working late tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "No problem. I have some projects to work on anyway." Her response came quickly. "Good. Glad you're keeping busy." The condescension in that simple message was breathtaking. She was actually pleased that I was staying occupied, probably saw it as evidence that her manipulation was working. The old Eli might have felt hurt by that dismissal. The new Eli just added it to the growing file of evidence. I stayed at the office until 7, using the extra time to set up secure communication channels and research tools. If I was going to investigate my own wife, I needed to do it properly. No digital footprints, no traces that could be used against me later. The drive home took me past the wine bar where Celia claimed to be meeting clients. Murphy's Wine and Tapas, an upscale place in the financial district. On impulse, I parked across the street and walked past the windows. She was there, all right. But not in a business meeting. She was sitting in a corner booth with a man I didn't recognize, mid-20s, expensive suit, the kind of aggressive confidence that comes with inherited money. They were sitting close together, her hand on his arm, both of them laughing at something on his phone. I took a photo through the window, being careful to stay in the shadows. Then I walked back to my car and drove home, my mind perfectly calm and utterly focused. The apartment felt different when I walked in, emptier somehow, despite being full of our shared possessions. I made myself dinner, ate it while reading technical manuals, and went to bed early. Celia came home around midnight, moving quietly through the apartment like she was trying not to wake me. "How was your client meeting?" I asked softly when she slipped into bed. She stiffened. "Fine. Productive." "Good. I'm glad Brandon is working out." A longer pause this time. "How did you know his name?" "You mentioned it this morning, remember, when you saw his notification on your phone?" "Right." She settled onto her side of the bed, maintaining the careful distance that had become our normal. "Good night, Eli." "Good night." I lay there in the darkness, listening to her breathing gradually slow and deepen. When I was certain she was asleep, I slipped out of bed and went to my office. I had work to do and 18 days left to do it. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange kind of dance. Celia continued her ignore protocol, treating me with the kind of polite distance usually reserved for annoying coworkers. Her friends kept feeding her encouragement through their group chat, which I monitored daily, and I built my case piece by piece, like assembling a jigsaw puzzle in the dark. Brandon Lee turned out to be exactly what I'd expected, a trust fund entrepreneur with 3 failed startups and a reputation for sleeping with married women. Sam's contact at a local venture capital firm painted a picture of someone who was all flash and no substance, the kind of man who drove a leased Tesla and called himself a disruptor without actually disrupting anything. More importantly, Brandon had never been a client of Celia's company. That lie was easy enough to verify with a simple phone call to her office directory. "Harper Industries doesn't work with individual consultants," the receptionist had told me when I called pretending to be a potential client. "All our HR consulting goes through established firms." I documented everything: photos of Celia and Brandon at various restaurants around the city, credit card charges that didn't match her claimed whereabouts, text messages between her and her conspirators discussing everything from my improved behavior to Brandon's bedroom skills. The casual way they discussed my emotional state was perhaps the most infuriating part. Maya had taken to rating my desperation level on a scale of 1 to 10. Trish shared updates from our mutual acquaintances, noting how I seemed more attentive lately when we ran into people at social events. They were right, in a way. I was being more attentive, just not in the way they thought. On day 23, Celia made her first serious mistake. I was working late when she called, her voice honey-sweet in a way it hadn't been for weeks. "Hi, baby," she purred into the phone. "I was thinking, maybe we should plan a weekend getaway, just the two of us, reconnect a little." "That sounds nice," I said carefully. "What brought this on?" "I don't know. I've just been feeling like we've been distant lately. Maybe I've been working too much." I almost laughed. Day 23 was apparently when the ignore protocol was supposed to shift into the reward good behavior phase. I'd read all about it in their group chat. "Where were you thinking?" I asked. "That bed and breakfast in wine country? The one we went to for our anniversary 2 years ago? The Willow Creek Inn? That's the one. I could call tomorrow, see if they have availability for next weekend." "Sounds perfect." I paused, as if struck by a thought. "Actually, why don't I handle the reservation? I know the owner. We did some security work for them last year. I might be able to get us an upgrade." "Oh." A slight hesitation. "That's sweet, but I don't mind calling." "No, really. Let me take care of it. Consider it my contribution to our reconnection." After we hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. Celia wanted to plan a romantic weekend away, probably to cement her newfound control over our relationship. What she didn't know was that I'd been monitoring her email, and I'd seen her real plans. She was going to wine country, all right, but not with me. She'd already made reservations at a different hotel for the same weekend, under Brandon's name. The romantic getaway was supposed to be my reward for good behavior while she enjoyed her actual romantic getaway with her boyfriend. The sheer audacity of it was almost impressive. I called Sam. "It's time," I said when he answered. "Time for what?" "The final phase. Can you meet me tomorrow night? I need to show you something." We met at my office after hours. I'd spent the day organizing everything into a comprehensive presentation. Photos, screenshots, financial records, timeline documentation. The full scope of Celia's deception laid out in chronological order. Sam whistled low as he scrolled through the evidence on my laptop. "This is extensive. 30 days of systematic lying and manipulation," I said, "plus at least 3 months of the affair based on the earliest messages I can find." "What's your play?" I pulled up a calendar. "Tomorrow is day 29. According to their plan, that's when Celia is supposed to start her reward phase, being extra affectionate, making me think I've won back her attention. Day 30 is supposed to be the culmination, where I'm so grateful for her renewed interest that I agree to whatever changes she wants to make in our relationship. And instead, day 30 becomes the day she learns what actual planning looks like. I outlined my strategy. It was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its completeness. No violence, no illegal activity, just the systematic application of consequences for choices made. First, the financial component. All our joint accounts get frozen pending divorce proceedings. I file the paperwork tomorrow morning. I've already prepared everything. Sam nodded. Clean and legal. Second, the social component. I've prepared a detailed timeline of her affair and the manipulation campaign, with full documentation. It gets sent to her parents, her boss, her friends, everyone except the core conspirators, who already know what they did. Public humiliation. Public accountability, I corrected. There's a difference. I'm not making anything up or exaggerating. I'm just ensuring that the people in her life know who they're really dealing with. And the third component? I smiled. The personal component. That's where it gets interesting. I explained about the wine country plan, how she intended to stand me up for a romantic weekend while she enjoyed the same weekend with Brandon, how she'd probably planned to claim some kind of work emergency, leaving me alone at the inn while she celebrated her successful manipulation. So what are you going to do instead? I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for, a weekend that she'll never forget. We spent another hour going over details, making sure every step was legal and documented. Sam would serve as my witness and backup, ready to verify my whereabouts and actions if needed later. One last thing, I said as we prepared to leave. After tomorrow, there's no going back. Once I start this, it plays out to the end. Sam studied my face in the dim light of the office. You sure about this? I thought about Celia's smile as she read those cruel messages, about the casual way she discussed my emotional manipulation, about the months of lies and the systematic campaign to break down my self-worth. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The next morning, I woke before dawn and drove to the courthouse. The divorce papers were filed by 8 a.m., along with a request for immediate asset protection pending proceedings. By the time Celia woke up, our joint accounts were frozen, and she was officially served with papers. I was at my office when my phone started ringing. What the hell is this, Eli? Her voice was shaking with rage and panic. Legal documents, I said calmly. I thought the language was pretty straightforward. You can't just freeze our accounts. Actually, I can. It's standard procedure in divorce proceedings to protect assets from being moved or hidden. You understand? A long silence. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, softer, more manipulative. The voice she'd been using during her reward phase. Baby, let's talk about this. I know we've had some problems, but we can work through them. We're good together. Are we? I hadn't noticed. I know I've been distant lately. Work stress, but that doesn't mean we should throw away 8 years of marriage. You're right, I said. We shouldn't throw away 8 years. We should be honest about what those 8 years actually were. Another silence. What do you mean? I mean, I'll see you tonight, Celia. We have a lot to discuss. I hung up before she could respond and turned off my phone. Phase 1 was complete. Phase 2 would begin when I got home. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness, but finally, 6 o'clock arrived. I drove home through the city streets, watching the familiar landmarks pass by like mile markers on a journey I'd been planning for 18 days. The apartment was dark when I walked in. Celia was sitting at the kitchen table, still in her work clothes, looking smaller somehow than she had that morning. We need to talk, she said. Yes, I agreed, setting down my briefcase and removing my jacket. We do. Celia had prepared for this conversation. I could see it in the way she'd positioned herself at the kitchen table, in the careful arrangement of tissues and water glass, in the practiced vulnerability of her expression. She thought she was dealing with the same man who'd been slowly broken down over the past month, the husband who would crumble at the first sign of her tears. She was about to learn otherwise. I don't understand why you're doing this, she began, her voice soft and wounded. If you were unhappy, why didn't you just talk to me? I poured myself a glass of water and sat across from her, taking my time. That's an interesting question, Celia. When exactly should I have talked to you? During the ignore protocol, or maybe during one of your client meetings with Brandon? Her face went pale. I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table between us. Would you like me to start with the group chat, or should we jump straight to the affair? The careful mask of vulnerability slipped, replaced by something harder and more calculating. This was the real Celia, the one who'd spent 30 days systematically trying to break down my self-worth. You went through my phone. Your phone was open on the counter. The messages were right there. I swiped to the first screenshot. Day 12 of the ignore protocol. How's he holding up? She stared at the screen, her mind racing. I could practically see her trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I could prove. It wasn't what it looks like, she said finally. Really? What does it look like? Those messages. Maya was going through a rough patch with her husband. We were just venting, giving each other advice. You know how women talk. I scrolled to another screenshot. My cousin did this with her husband. Now he does all the housework and gives her his entire paycheck, total puppy behavior. That's Maya talking about her cousin, not about us. And this one? I showed her Celia's own message. Eli's almost there. He's been doing the dishes without being asked. Next phase is making him beg for my attention. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her own words on the screen. When she looked up, the pretense of innocence was gone. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," she said. "At work, with my friends, with my family. Everyone expects me to have the perfect marriage, the perfect life. Sometimes I need to vent." Venting is complaining about your husband to your friends. This is psychological manipulation with a 30-day timeline and specific behavioral goals. Don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? I scrolled to more messages. You shared details of our private conversations. You mocked my concerns about our relationship. You rated my emotional state on a numerical scale. How is any of that dramatic? She was getting angry now, the careful victim act abandoned. So what? You're going to destroy our marriage over some stupid text messages? I'm not destroying anything, Celia. I'm just refusing to participate in my own emotional abuse anymore. Emotional abuse? Are you serious right now? I leaned forward. What would you call a systematic campaign to undermine someone's confidence, manipulate their behavior, and isolate them from genuine affection? I would call it a marriage that needed some work. And Brandon? What would you call him? The question hung in the air between us like a blade. Celia's eyes darted away from mine, and I knew I had her. Brandon is a friend. A friend you meet at wine bars while lying to me about client meetings. How did you... She caught herself, but it was too late. How did I know? Because I followed you. Because I documented everything. Because when someone lies to me about small things, I start looking for the bigger lies. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared and spread its contents on the table. Photos of her and Brandon at various restaurants. Credit card statements showing charges that didn't match her claimed whereabouts. Hotel reservations made under his name. "This weekend," I said, pointing to the reservation printout. "The romantic getaway you suggested. Were you planning to stand me up, or were you going to invent some kind of emergency?" She stared at the evidence, her face cycling through emotions, anger, fear, calculation, and finally, a kind of cold resignation. "You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference." "For how long?" 18 days. Ever since I realized that my wife was treating our marriage like a social experiment. She was quiet for a long moment, studying the photos. When she looked up, her expression had changed again. This was a Celia I'd never seen before. Calculating, predatory, completely without pretense. "So what now?" she asked. "You want me to beg? Apologize? Promise to be a good wife? I want you to understand that actions have consequences." "And what consequences are those, exactly?" I pulled out another folder. Divorce papers, filed this morning. Asset protection order, also filed this morning. By tomorrow, your parents will have a complete timeline of your affair. Your boss will receive documentation of your lies about client meetings. Your friends, the ones who weren't part of your little conspiracy, will understand exactly what kind of person they've been defending. Her face went white. "You can't do that." "I can, and I will. Unless what?" I smiled. "Unless you'd prefer to explain it to them yourself." "You're blackmailing me." "I'm offering you a choice. You can control the narrative or I can control it for you. But either way, the truth comes out." She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window and back. "This is insane, Eli. We can work through this. Couples therapy, counseling, whatever you want. But destroying my reputation, my career, that's just vindictive." "Is it? Or is it just ensuring that people know who they're really dealing with?" "You're not the same person," she said, studying my face. When did you become so cold? I considered the question. When had I changed? Was it the moment I read those messages? Or had it been building for months, years even, as I slowly realized that my marriage was built on manipulation and lies? I became cold the moment I realized my wife was conducting psychological experiments on me for her friend's entertainment. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Celia? Explain it to me. Help me understand how systematically undermining your husband's emotional well-being is actually an act of love. She couldn't answer that because there was no answer. We both knew what it was. Cruelty disguised as strategy, manipulation packaged as self-improvement. What do you want from me? She asked finally. I want you to understand that the game is over. You and your friend spent 30 days trying to break me down, turn me into some kind of obedient pet. Instead, you showed me exactly who you really are. And who am I, according to you? I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. The beautiful woman I'd married was still there, but underneath was something else. Something calculating and cruel and utterly without empathy. You're someone who thinks other people exist for your entertainment. Someone who sees relationships as power games to be won, rather than partnerships to be nurtured. Someone who's capable of systematic psychological manipulation and thinks that's normal behavior. That's not true. Isn't it? Show me the messages where you expressed concern for my feelings. Show me the conversations where you worried about the ethics of what you were doing. Show me any evidence that you saw me as a human being rather than a problem to be solved. She couldn't, because no such messages existed. In 30 days of detailed planning and daily updates, not once had she or her friends expressed any concern for my emotional well-being. I want you out of the apartment by tomorrow night, I said, gathering up the photos and documents. You can stay with Maya or Brandon or whoever else wants to deal with the consequences of your choices. This is my home too. No, it's not. Check the lease agreement. This apartment is in my name only, paid for with my income. You've been a guest here, nothing more. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. But I'm giving you 24 hours to pack and leave voluntarily. After that, it becomes a legal matter. She stared at me, and I could see her mind working, looking for angles, for leverage, for some way to regain control of the situation. The divorce, she said finally. You'll never get everything you want. I'll fight it. I'll make it expensive and ugly and public. Go ahead. I have 18 days of documentation showing systematic psychological abuse and a months-long affair. How do you think that's going to play out in court? You recorded private conversations without my consent. I documented my own experiences and took screenshots of messages sent to me. Everything I have is legally obtained and admissible. She slumped back into her chair, finally understanding the scope of what she was facing. This wasn't the broken-down husband she'd expected to manipulate. This was someone who'd been planning as carefully as she had, but with better resources and clearer objectives. I never meant for it to go this far, she said quietly. Yes, you did. You had a 30-day plan with specific goals and measurable outcomes. This is exactly as far as you meant for it to go. I mean with Brandon. That just happened. When? 3 months ago. Maybe 4. So you've been lying to me for 4 months, manipulating me for 1 month, and planning to stand me up for a romantic weekend that you were going to spend with your boyfriend. Is that the timeline? She nodded miserably. Then we understand each other. I stood up, gathering my things. 24 hours, Celia. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Where are you going? To my brother's place. I'll be back tomorrow evening to make sure you've cleared out. Eli. Her voice was small, almost childlike. I'm sorry, I really am. I paused at the door, looking back at her. For a moment, I felt something, not love exactly, but an echo of what love had been. Then I remembered the casual cruelty of those messages, the systematic nature of her manipulation, the months of lies. I'm sure you are, I said. But sorry doesn't undo 4 months of betrayal. Sorry doesn't erase 30 days of psychological manipulation. Sorry is just another strategy now. I walked out of our apartment for the last time, leaving Celia sitting alone at the kitchen table with the evidence of her choices spread out before her. The game was over, and there was only one winner. I spent that night at Sam's apartment, sleeping on his couch and staring at the ceiling while my mind processed the conversation with Celia. Part of me had expected to feel guilty or sad, or some echo of the love I'd once felt for her. Instead, I felt nothing but a cold satisfaction that justice was finally being served. "How did it go?" Sam asked over coffee the next morning. Exactly as planned. She tried every manipulation tactic in the book: victim, anger, bargaining, threats. None of it worked. And she's really moving out? She doesn't have a choice. I gave her 24 hours. Sam studied my face. "You know there's no going back from this, right? Once you send those documents to her family and friends, that's it? Nuclear option?" There was no going back the moment she decided to treat our marriage like a psychology experiment. My phone had been buzzing all morning with calls and texts from Celia, but I ignored them. Whatever she had to say now was irrelevant. The time for conversation had passed. I spent the day at my office putting the finishing touches on the information packets I'd prepared. Each one was customized for its recipient. Her parents got the full timeline with emphasis on the systematic deception. Her boss got the documentation of her lies about client meetings. Her friends got the group chat screenshots with their own participation highlighted. At 5 o'clock, I drove back to the apartment. Celia's car was gone from the parking garage, and when I opened the door, I could see she'd cleared out her belongings. The space looked strange without her things, bigger somehow, but also more honest. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Eli, I know you won't believe this, but I never meant to hurt you. The thing with my friends got out of hand, and Brandon was a mistake. I was going to end both situations after this weekend. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I wanted you to know. I'll be staying with Maya for now. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce proceedings. Celia." I read the note twice, then threw it away. Even in her apology, she was lying. She hadn't been planning to end anything. The hotel reservation with Brandon was proof of that. Right to the end, she couldn't help but try to manipulate the narrative. My phone rang. Maya's number. "You need to stop this," she said without preamble when I answered. "Celia is a mess. She's been crying for hours." "Has she now?" "This is insane, Eli." So she vented to her friends and maybe got a little too close to some guy at work. That doesn't justify destroying her entire life. "Some guy at work? Is that how she's spinning it now?" "Brandon is a colleague. They had a few drinks after some conference. You're acting like she was having some torrid affair." I almost laughed. "Maya, I have photos of them together at restaurants across the city. I have hotel reservations. I have months of text messages between you and Celia discussing her relationship with Brandon in explicit detail. Which version of events would you like me to believe?" A long silence. "You've been spying on all of us. I've been protecting myself from all of you." The group chat was just girl talk. We were trying to help Celia figure out how to improve her marriage. By implementing a 30-day psychological manipulation protocol designed to break down my self-worth and make me beg for her attention? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Maya? Because I have screenshots of every message. I know exactly what it was like. Another silence. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You and your friends decided to treat me like a lab rat. Now you get to live with the results. You're going to destroy all of us over this?" "I'm not destroying anyone. I'm just making sure people know who they're really dealing with." "Celia's parents are flying in tomorrow. Her boss wants to meet with her on Monday. You're ruining her career, her family relationships, everything." Celia ruined those things when she chose to lie, cheat, and manipulate. I'm just making sure the consequences catch up with her choices. This isn't you, Eli. The man I knew wouldn't be this vindictive. The man you knew was being systematically manipulated by his wife and her friends. That man doesn't exist anymore. I hung up and turned off my phone. Maya could call back all she wanted. I was done listening to their justifications and excuses. Over the next few days, I watched the consequences ripple outward like stones thrown into still water. Celia's parents cut their visit short after seeing the documentation of her affair and manipulation campaign. Her boss placed her on administrative leave pending an investigation into her lies about client meetings. Several of her friends stopped speaking to her after seeing their own participation in the group chat. Brandon, it turned out, was married with 2 young children. His wife received a complete timeline of his relationship with Celia, along with photos and hotel receipts. By the end of the week, he'd been kicked out of his house and was facing his own divorce proceedings. Maya tried to salvage her reputation by claiming she'd been trying to help Celia save her marriage, but the screenshots told a different story. Her boyfriend broke up with her after reading her messages about training husbands like dogs. Trish lost several friendships when her role as an instigator became public knowledge. The social media fallout was swift and brutal. Someone, I never found out who, created a compilation of the group chat screenshots and posted it on various platforms. Within days, it had been shared thousands of times, becoming a cautionary tale about the dangers of treating relationships like games. I felt no satisfaction watching their lives implode. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. They had chosen to treat me as less than human, and now they were facing the natural consequences of that choice. 2 weeks later, I was having dinner at Murphy's when I saw Celia walk in. She looked different, thinner, older somehow, with the kind of haunted expression that comes from having your carefully constructed life collapse around you. She spotted me and walked over to my table. "Can I sit?" she asked. I gestured to the empty chair across from me. She sat down carefully, like someone recovering from a long illness. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "Really apologize, not the manipulative kind I tried before." "Okay. I've been in therapy, individual therapy, not couples therapy, trying to understand how I became the kind of person who could do what I did to you. And what have you learned?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. "That I never saw you as a real person. Not really. You were just a role in my life. The husband. Someone who was supposed to make me look good and feel secure and not cause problems. That's honest. The thing with my friends, the manipulation stuff, we really did think we were being clever, like we'd figured out some secret to managing relationships. We never stopped to think about how cruel it was." "And Brandon?" "Brandon was about feeling powerful, about having someone want me who didn't know all my flaws and insecurities. It was selfish and stupid, and I hurt a lot of people." I studied her face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation, but she seemed genuinely broken, genuinely remorseful in a way I'd never seen before. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because you deserved better. Because I want you to know that what happened wasn't about anything you did or didn't do. It was about me being a terrible person who didn't know how to be in a real relationship. And now you do? Now I'm learning. It's going to take a long time." We sat in silence for a few minutes. Around us, the restaurant buzzed with conversation and laughter. Other people living their lives, making their choices, dealing with their consequences. "I'm not going to fight the divorce," she said finally. "My lawyer says I should try to get alimony, half the assets, but I won't. You can have everything, it's the least I can do." "I appreciate that. Maya and Trish want to sue you for invasion of privacy or something. I told them I'd testify against them if they tried." "Also appreciated." She stood up, gathering her purse. "I know this doesn't fix anything. I know sorry isn't enough. But I wanted you to know that I understand what I did now. I understand how much I hurt you. Celia." She paused, looking back at me. "I hope you figure it out," I said. "I hope you become the person you're trying to be." She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked away. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't expected. Not forgiveness, exactly, but a kind of closure. The woman who had manipulated and betrayed me was gone, replaced by someone who was at least trying to understand the damage she'd caused. I finished my dinner alone, thinking about the past month and the choices that had led us all to this point. Celia was right about one thing: sorry wasn't enough. But understanding was a start. The game was over, and everyone had lost something. But for the first time in years, I felt like I knew exactly who I was and what I was worth. That was enough.